I was fighting audio driver problems, just sorted them out. So we're just about to get started.
Oh, nice. Here we go. This is looking good.
And
Game's
then
much better
let
now.
me just get this tweeted.
Hi. Okay. Right.
All right. Welcome to the Game of Zones live stream. Jack and I are here to give you an update on how things are going as we come to the end of week one. How you doing, Jack?
Pretty good. Excited about how this has gone. Obviously, some ups and downs, which I think we'll get into on the cast. But feeling much better than I was Wednesday morning.
Yep. So let's start with a recap. So do you want to talk through like a little bit of the goal of week one? What was the purpose of the challenge and
Yeah.
how I think we're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that before we kind of dive into scoring for phase one, there were a lot of questions around phase one throughout this week, naturally, and we have tried our best to answer them. But obviously, still some unanswered questions there. So phase one, the purpose of it was to get everyone comfortable using the software and prepare for phase two and phase three, where we're going to have much higher throughput on the hub. So it was also a chance for us to get all of our data collection and metrics collection in order, and for us to get the hub infrastructure sufficiently resilient for all you fine folks banging on it, which we started seeing probably around Tuesday afternoon. A number of large transactions did delay receipt of other transactions on the hub, and we ended up scaling up the hub a little bit to deal with that. Slightly unanticipated during phase one on our end, but and I think that was because we did anticipate phase one being primarily this sort of like learning period where everyone would kind of get comfortable with the tooling before we launched into the more challenging pieces of Game of Zones.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a unexpectedly complicated ramp up
Yeah.
in the beginning. We also had starting last weekend, we found that there was actually a state machine bug in the dynamic capability system that Aditya and Jack sorted out working through the weekend last weekend. So that was pretty. That was like sort of an interesting experience as always, and it's actually been really cool to see like how stable the software has been after that
Yeah.
initial bug. And that bug had like a 2-line fix, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But so we found 2 bugs in the software over the course of this week. We found that original state machine bug with how the dynamic capability system, which is the system that underlies dynamic IBC, how that system was being initialized across restarts of nodes. So you would start out, you'd have a node, they would all be in a consistent state. But then if one of your validator nodes got restarted, it would actually no longer be in a consistent state, and then eventually the chain would fork and halt.
Always a fun one for everyone involved.
Yeah. The second bug that was pretty frustrating, which we sort of glommed onto on Tuesday night, is one of the things that we'd really been hoping to do in Game of Zones is use the WebSocket as our primary data collection, data ingestion entry point where we would sort of get all of this data. But Tuesday night we discovered that the client update events, which was probably the event that most people in this phase were going to trigger, all of those events, all of that data was actually not actually making it out onto the WebSocket. So we got that fixed, I think, on Thursday by the team. I think I reported it on Wednesday night, and the team fixed it. So a big part of like a lot of our time right now, when we're not like sort of helping when Jack's not helping out on the chat, or we're not responding to people's questions, is actually just like trying to figure out various ways of trying to ingest and make sense of all of the data. And like there's been some fantastic contributions also from the community as well, trying to figure out, trying to make sense of what is going on in all this data in IBC. Do you want to show off some of the graphs that we've got?
Yeah, I'm absolutely happy to do that. You know, a number of folks have done a fantastic job on some of this data mining. You know, one of the major purposes of this competition was to develop the tooling around IBC, and you know, this sort of community understanding of what data exists within the system, where to find it, and how to graph it is definitely one of those competencies that we need to develop. And I think with any new system that you're developing, finding the right metrics to measure is just inherently difficult. Because I don't think any system comes with an inherent guide, especially when you're building it. You know, figuring out exactly which pieces of metrics are important and how to emit those properly, as Zaki mentioned with that bug we found, is a huge part of it. So I can go ahead and share here a couple of graphs.
So our basic data strategy has been to get, is to ingest data through various mechanisms, pump that data into StatsD, and then have that data be available inside of Datadog and InfluxDB. And Jack is going to show off some InfluxDB visualizations. Jack used to work at Influx, so he at least has some sense of the query language there. I'm still kind of figuring out this Datadog thing.
Yeah, it's you know, I think Zaki and I have both been dusting off our our metric skills over the week, and it's been fun. So I just kind of hacked this together to kind of show you guys to try to get some idea of so you guys can get kind of some idea of what we're looking at. But what this is here is I have pulled data about every client ID on the hub, and then at 50 block intervals, I'm pulling all the data about all the clients when they were last updated. That 50 block interval is around a 5 minute time window. So every 5 minutes, we're checking how long it's been since the clients have been updated. And I've enriched the data with team names as well as a few other things. And we're going to use, this is sort of the beginning of the data that we'll be using for final scoring. If you want to see how I'm pulling this data, you're free to go check out the pull request on the relayer. It contains some of the work that Zaki and I have been doing for the last couple of days as for visibility. But here you can see this is Malia's different client IDs that he's pushed. And you can see on this a pattern that was very similar for a lot of participants. They were regularly keeping a client ID updated towards the beginning of the competition, even sort of learning and kind of figuring out how to keep it updated more frequently. And then everyone hit this kind of hub traffic that we just discussed at the beginning on Tuesday evening into Wednesday morning, and then reestablishing of a new client ID and then continual updating there. We've also seen a few teams updating a large number of clients. I think the Bitfish folks, I think that's Big Fish. We can see them. Their strategy has been, we need to keep tons and tons of clients updated. So I think they've got 10 there that they're keeping regularly updated.
That color scheme is beautiful. Like,
it's intense. Yeah, the chronograph team loves their neons. But you can kind of see the clients expire as they just shift up and to the right in time since last update, because once they reach this 90-minute threshold here, I think it's 5,400,000 milliseconds. Once they reach that threshold there, it becomes really difficult to it's impossible to update the clients anymore. And actually, if you want to see sort of what all of the data looks like, you can see
that's beautiful.
Up and to the right. Yeah, it's really cool. And when we take the particular team filter off and go up and to the right here, it's basically one giant line. But filtering by individual teams and being able to kind of cut out those non-updated clients, we get a much better idea of the data. Now, as far as gross numbers, I've really just started to dig into this in detail, and as has Zaki. So I have a bunch of preliminary data. There's a lot of third-party explorers out there that folks can go look at. I do want to call out Vasily and the folks that he's working with. They've done a fantastic job. The p2p.org folks have done a fantastic job. All in Bits has a gorgeous explorer. The Iris team has made a fantastic explorer. I know I'm missing some people, but do want to make sure that everyone gets credit for the great work that they've done throughout this competition, and we are being sure to take notice there. So thank you guys.
Yeah, and the progress that we've been making this week should hopefully start manifesting in more live data that is reliable. But it's a pretty complicated data schema. Like like you have chain ID. Each chain ID can have potentially multiple clients. We've seen multiple chain IDs turning into multiple clients. There are multiple channels on top of that. And so you have to reconcile all this information. And if you kind of think about what block explorers and just like understanding what's going on inside of Cosmos is going to require after IBC goes live on mainnet, it's very much going to be this data. I think this we just wanted to show off a little bit of the work on the data side about how we've been thinking about this, and neither Jack nor I are metrics or data visualization people, so we're doing our best to figure out the best way of showing this off to people and learning like query languages on both Datadog and Influx and trying to figure out something that will sort of end up working. But it's been a fun learning experience, definitely, and I think everybody else is sort of engaging with it. And we've been pushing all of our works to both the Relayer repo and to the Sagan repo. So as people who are participating want to check it out, and hopefully the plan of all of this stuff is to like get us ready to be live on mainnet. So like finding this thing like a bunch of events are being swallowed and we aren't getting the data is actually really helpful. And some of the approaches that we've been trying to do about like building invertible indexes so you can like map backwards from a client name to a hub, a chain ID and stuff like that. All of this stuff I think will be enormously valuable to the general Cosmos community when the network for further understanding and visibility into IBC.
Yeah. And I think that we're going to write this up this weekend as a blog post that we hope to have out Sunday or Monday at the latest.
Yeah.
One of the great comments from the comment line here is, it's complex for sure. My leaderboard is 102 lines of SQL. It's been 12 years since I've written that much SQL. Lots of it.
I don't know how to write that much SQL, so.
I don't either. Or by Rand. Yes, absolutely. So I think that sort of brings us to the logical end of the discussion of phase one. I'm happy to talk more about that later in the stream. If folks still have questions, and please drop those in the Q&A box to the right. But I think it's good to move on to software releases for phase two and sort of intro to phase two.
Yeah, I think so.
Awesome. So earlier this week, I worked with the SDK team, Aditya, Chris, Bez, that whole crew over there, Federico, pushing some great work. And there were a number of bug fixes as well as stability things, and actually one major performance thing that should decrease gas costs for phase two of the competition, which will be interesting, got in. And the big performance thing is the proto migration for IBC. So all of the internal state storage and handling is done through protobuf, and this should significantly decrease gas costs. Because the amount of encoding and decoding that's required, especially for these very large transactions that we started to see. And moving into phase two, I do anticipate that we're going to see a lot more of that because the Relayer software makes that fairly easy. And I think that there's a few mitigation things that will be deployed to the hub. But the software for phase two also includes timeout packets. So in prior testnets, if you have sent too many packets down a channel and you haven't cleared them out in time, I think the default block timeout is around 1,000 blocks. So if you don't clear them out within 1,000 blocks, it was impossible to clear that channel and you had to migrate over to another channel. The relayer will now automatically send the timeout packets required to flush that channel. And that's all just sort of like built into that relayer TX relay command that also runs at the beginning of relay start. One thing that we did want to note for phase 2 is one of the things that will really help us get this data and ensure that the scoring is accurate for phase 2 is if users use their addresses for Genesis for relaying on the hub. Now, we didn't really dig into this piece of it a whole ton because we didn't have a good understanding of how many folks were actually using that key to relay. But during
we were
phase
also
2,
expecting to get client update data that we were going to focus on for phase 1. And we eventually got it, as you can see, but we had to try 2 or 3 different strategies. But part of the reason why I published that dashboard about relayered packets by team was that was supposed to be a hint to everyone. What we're really in order to make any sense of phase 2 of the system and figure out how many packets everyone relayed, is we need your relayers to operate with keys that we know about. Otherwise, we can't score anything. And so that's going to be, and the other piece is probably sometime within today or tomorrow, I'm hoping to connect to everyone's RPC port and start getting packet information data over the WebSockets using the RPC ports you gave us, which is going to be like just expand the scope of the data and supervision and management challenge, and we'll see what we can do. But it's fascinating. But yes. We can't make any sense. We just want to re-emphasize. We have no idea who's relaying packets if you're not relaying packets with the key we know about.
Yeah. And we need that key to be able to associate those packets with your relayer. So another thing to note about phase 2, because of the proto migration, this is a state-breaking upgrade. All chains will need to completely reset and start from block 0 in Genesis. We will also be resetting the hub on Sunday as well.
I think we should probably aim for we'll probably be up Sunday, worst case Monday morning. It shouldn't take too long for us to reset the hub, and it'll be Game of Zones hub -2.
Yep.
It'll be the same Genesis file basically as the first hub, but we'll be changing the chain ID to -2 because I've learned my lesson about not changing chain IDs. And lesson to everyone: always change the chain ID.
Yeah. This is a mistake that I've made too many times. I need to learn that one. So one thing to note that as we're moving into phase 2, which is all about packet throughput, is, I have built the relayer. I have tried to take care of as many of the edge cases to deal with during high throughput, but I think anyone who's programmed with blockchains before kind of understands that these distributed systems, you really need to build a lot of asynchrony into your code, and it is hard to handle all these different failure cases and properly retry. So there's a number of areas where adding additional retries and error handling cases to the relayer code will allow you to relay much more efficiently than some other folks in the competition. So, I think phase 2 will really reward those folks who kind of dig into the code a little bit and try to modify the relayer to handle much higher volumes of transactions. And one thing I would note there is that, I totally understand, Zaki, we just dropped into consensus, CoinDesk consensus.
Sorry.
Thing. No, it's okay. God, game mistakes is very cool. But one thing to note is that I was just talking about the throughput issues. If you do want to keep your patches to the relayer private during the competition, I completely understand that. Zaki, we're another tab.
I know, I figured it out.
Cool.
Windows are hard.
Yeah, they are.
Now it should be fine?
Yeah, we're good. They just lost my train of thought again.
Retries.
Oh yeah, retries. So if you do want to keep your patches private until the end of the competition, that's great. Please do that because folks are obviously playing to win here, and we do encourage that. But this being open source software, and the major purpose of Game of Zones being to improve the software, improve the usability of IBC, and improve the robustness. If folks could please push those patches after phase 2 or phase 3, whichever one you feel comfortable with, so that we can incorporate all of the great learnings from this competition back into the core software. And there's a number of folks. The Coco Free Felix Media Hub team has pushed a number of PRs to the relayer, as well as the FitWit team. Thank you guys very much. Really appreciate the contributions. I know I'm missing a few people as well, but also Asmodee, you've opened a number of issues. Thank you. And please push any learnings that you guys have from the code back into the repos after this competition ends. So there are a number of questions here in the chat, and I can kind of dig into those. Zaki, did you have anything else to add about phase 2 and phase 2 scoring?
So reemphasize how important it's going to be to use your Cosmos address, and not just ideally relaying on the hub chain, but ideally relaying across as many chains as possible. So whatever chains you're relaying on, because I'm going to try and get data across the sort of entire network as much as possible. Data is going to still, data is going to be a challenge. Hopefully, all of these changes that we made. The changes to the WebSocket that are in this, the fixes to the WebSocket in this update, and we're going to be able to start building systems for making sense of it all. But I'm going to try and get as much data as we can across the entire multi-chain. And I also have almost no idea how to visualize it, but we'll find out.
One other thing that I would mention is that throughout this week I've managed to build in a bunch of bulk data export capability into the relayer. The tooling there that I think will be really helpful in that multi-chain world as well.
Yep. But yeah, just want to re-emphasize the value of using keys that we know about to sort of make sense of it all.
Okay, so let's just dig into a few questions here. So Asmodee, a couple from you. Should P2P P2 only allow connections from whitelisted addresses, and with throughput limitation to keep it all alive? Well, as far as throughput limitation, I believe we will be adding a block gas limit, which should restrict the ability for people to send transactions that are much too large.
Yeah, we're gonna have. I think the two things that we're gonna do is we're gonna keep the gas fees on in the future phases. That is going to sort of set some sort of ceiling on the number of packets that people can send to the hub. Need to think. We haven't really thought this entirely through, like what to do if people sort of just exhaust capacity on the fee side. So we need to think a little bit about that.
Well, and Zaki, maybe we do some live on air thinking about this. My thought was that we would charge min fee on all the validators, have that block gas limit, and then folks would only have a specific number of doubloons. Currently, it's around 10 million, and figuring out how to best send as many transactions as you can, given the limited number of doubloons, might be interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's one way we can do it. We will obviously these parameters are sort of under discussion right now, but we will publish what we will be doing as we update the hub. All right, some more questions. As with that, if you count transactions between zones in the competition, people can make them offline. Do not send over the line, actually. Well, you do need to send HTTP requests to both the chains that you're working on. So that's okay. They don't necessarily need to be online. They just need to hit the hub state and which point you can query
I think we need to come up a little bit. We need to think a little bit about scoring. And overwhelmingly relaying to and from the hub is going to be the dominant, the sort of dominant activity here. But we probably want to have a little bit, depending on how good the data comes together on sort of off hub activities. We're probably going to count that a little bit.
I think that's a great point. Okay, we can relay with other keys, but it won't be scored, or we can't relay with them at all. You can relay with other keys, it just won't be scored properly. Should we use the same relayer key, address through registered, on both chains, or just the hub works? So, this is actually an excellent question. If you just want to use it on the hub, that's great. If you would like to use it, well,
I would
basically required to use it on the hub.
Yeah. I would say I would optimize for using that key in as many places as possible, just because it makes data analysis for us just so much easier. So if you want to use it on your other chains, I just you can kind of think of this identity as your identity in Game of Zones, and it just helps us with scoring to be able to understand who did what action where across the entire Cosmos network.
So could we join the wallets? DB Patty, that's a great question. You would just restore the same mnemonic to multiple chains as the chain key. Very doable and can help folks with that if they have questions. This even works with different prefixes because of the way Batch 32 deals with prefixes, which is awesome. So that's super cool.
I need to make Sagan be able to identify addresses across in a prefix independent way, but I was going to patch that today.
In this prefix thing, we made one decision as a chain a long time ago that this made dealing with prefixes is much more challenging than it should have been. But I think we finally
we knew we were doing a bad when we did it, though. We didn't know this.
I don't see a reason to keep the key on the source chain, but this discussion creates some confusion. You can if you want. Again, it will help us track, but we are only scoring for packets to and from the hub, which we can get all off of the hub state. So just be sure you use that key for the hub. Dean Tribble, you mentioned relay. You mentioned timeout packets. I'm confused. Timeout happens automatically. Dean, it's my understanding that we need to send a timeout message to SDK-based chains in order to make that timeout happen. I work with the DIT on this feature. I can circle up with you offline. Maybe you're right, maybe I'm wrong. Asmodee, will we get more coins so no one runs out? We will do a full restart of the hub. Everyone will start with the same amount of doubloons, just as you did at the beginning of last phase. Elliot, will there be restart of the hub as the new PR has breaking changes? Yes, we will need to completely restart the hub from a brand new Genesis state. Asmodee, we will not be running a faucet, as that would give people unlimited tokens on the hub, and that's not what we're looking to do. Demi asks, are packets sent so far counting for the cumulative challenges if we used other address? So one thing that we're going to do is dump all the data from Game of Zones Hub 1A, and we will back it up and then be able to query it after the competition. We will pull out as much data as we can about that. Are they counting for the cumulative challenge even if we use the other address? I'm imagining that we're only going to be using that one address to score the cumulative challenge, just because of data availability concerns.
Yeah, I mean, I can deal with. I mean, it wouldn't be that hard to deal with doing inverse lookups across mapping teams to multiple addresses. I don't think it'll be that big deal. So definitely, if you used other addresses, just make sure you sent an email with this is my other address.
Yeah, I think that's great. So Elliot asks, even on our own chain, we should use the same key. Yes, give it a try. It won't break anything, and it will totally work. DB Patty, this sort of answers your could we join the wallets question. Cosmos Fish, hey guys, how's it going? With a gas price of roughly 0.025 doubloons, we can only send roughly 30,000 messages with the initial 10 million doubloons. This gets depleted very quickly. Can be done in an hour. I think we need 2 billion doubloons or more for each address.
Or we could reduce the
Noted.
address.
Great math. We'll do that. We're going to run some. Numbers on this as well as internally. But yeah, I was planning on giving folks more doubloons because part of the strategy to mitigate too much spam was to limit the amount of doubloons that people have to more accurately reflect what's going to happen in real life. Anil asks, are you going to reset the hub for phase 2 or will it be an upgrade? You're going to completely reset with the new software. Because Gaia doesn't have the upgrade module in it in the current. Well, I guess it does. We just haven't tested it in a while.
I don't. Yeah, no, upgrades make no sense.
Yeah, we just don't even need to. It's a little bit too much. Is the direction of the transaction important? DB Patty asks. DB Patty, because of the nature of an IBC transaction, there's inherently a piece of data that will record the transaction that exists on both chains that the transaction happened on.
But we only get relayer information on the hub. I guess we know who's out. No, we only have relayer information on the hub on incoming packets.
We have relayer information on the hub on outgoing packets too. It's just a different packet signature.
But it's technically the sender, not the relayer. So theoretically, someone else could have relayed that packet.
That's true.
So I think on the hub, we're only going to be able to score incoming packets as relayed.
Interesting. But what if the outgoing packet contains the relayer address?
But we just don't, we have to see the destination chain, which we'll hopefully get some destination chain info. So what I would say is packets sent to the hub, we're going to count more than packets received sent out of the hub. But we're going to count both.
Yeah. Dogemas, great question. Since there are changes to the software, is there an ETA on when Hub 2 can go online so we can start running tests? We are anticipating having Hub 2 up on Sunday. If you would like to test compatibility with the new version with existing tooling, please hold down the PR that I have on the relayer that is substantially for the phase 2 software and hook up your visualization engine to that. There are nice scripts in there to create a nice little multi-chain environment where you can begin creating transactions between all those chains with one relayer. We have the 2 chains variety, extra gold on that one. We even have 3 chains as well as 4 chains in there. So if you're interested in any of those pieces, please holler at us, and I'm happy to help you guys get your thing updated. BSH asks, please don't make it so little doubloons that we actually need to ration client updates, etc. The hope is that everyone, properly works with the amount of tokens.
I think we're gonna. We're definitely. I don't think we need to do the 90-minute thing for phase 2 either, do we?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is going to be normal trusting period, so more like 2 weeks, which will be there will not be a limit to the trusting period for phase 2. Not going to be an issue. You guys don't need to worry about that. Also, because you're sending packets across these things so often, you need to update the client with the transactions. Zaki, we're back to the
It lasted for like a second.
Yeah. So the transfers. The transfers piece, update clients, and you don't really need to worry about that. I don't know if there's really ever going to be another situation in which folks are going to need to update clients with the kind of frequency that we saw in phase 1. So a different deal there. Also, BSH mentions scoring has to be clear before the phase starts. Strategy and development hugely depends on it. Oh, did our stream freeze here? Or is that just me?
Who knows? Maybe?
Oh, it's clearly my local bandwidth.
Okay.
And kill this switch window here.
I can hear you, but you're frozen. You're frozen on my end, which is why you're frozen on the stream.
Zaki, you can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I just can't. You're frozen. You want to leave and rejoin? We lost Jack, so you just have me as entertainment while we wait for Jack to come back. Okay. I'm also not looking at the Twitch stream, which I can do. Let's go check out what's happening on the Twitch. Okay, I have Twitch open if anyone has any questions. Things that so on the whole, pretty happy with how things are going. I think the real point of trying to have this short client update period during phase one was really to expose as many people as possible to the sharpest edge of IBC, like what happens when a connection dies, what happens to the tokens when a connection dies. We've gotten some really good GitHub issues around that, and that has really been a strength of the whole thing. Hey Jack, I can see you. You're back.
Oh yeah. My bandwidth just died on me. Okay. Any unanswered questions in here?
I don't see anything in the chat room right now.
Yeah, I don't see anything in the chat room. Well, anyway, I think everyone knows where to reach us. We will have an update on phase one scoring as well as phase two scoring coming up. Phase two scoring is all about throughput, so this is going to be packets relayed with your relayer key. Ideally to and from the hub. So yeah, that's where we're at. Zaki, I think to and from the hub, are we okay with that?
Yeah, to and from the hub, but just as a practical matter, more emphasis on to the hub because it'll be like the cleanest data set. And potentially get some more interesting, because it's going to be possible for someone to write a relayer that snipes other people, through various mechanisms that races other people, and I want that. I want to see that behavior if it's possible to see it, because if you write things correctly, you could do things like spy on the P2P network, for instance, see a packet being relayed by someone else, and then front run them to relay the packet through either directly to the hub RPC or something like that. So there should be some interesting behavior that emerges there, and I think that'd be cool.
Yeah. Azadat asks, what time is phase one in exactly UTC time in a day? Are we? I think the previous plan I think was maybe Friday evening at 12 midnight PST, but I'm also open to other options. I was just looking through the.
I don't remember off the top of my head. I'd have to look at the blog post.
The blog post. I'm looking at the blog posts. Phase one, mature participants. I don't think the blog post specifies an end date for some reason. I thought
Okay.
we talked about, yeah.
So Midnight California.
10th of May on the blog post update. Okay. So we could do the first minute of May 10, which would be overnight Saturday night. And then we
You want to do
bring it up on
midnight,
Sunday.
like 12:01 Sunday UTC.
Yep. So that's going to be, and we will blast this. This will be 12:01 UTC May 10th. I guess that's actually going to be 0001 UTC May 10th.
Yep.
So yeah, that will be overnight. Saturday night UTC. We will be ending scoring for phase one and taking down the hub at any time after that. I very much appreciated. Right again. Right. Should we just call this one Zaki?
Yeah. Looks like a good day. Cool.
Awesome.
Livestream
Well,
over.
thank you everyone for joining us. Very much appreciated. And we will see you all online. And if you've got any questions, please call and ask.
Bye.